This is Full Time Devils. It's time for another huge debate, one that I've been looking forward to doing for ages, one that Manchester United fans have been debating for a long, long time. What is your all-time Manchester United 11? I've got three guys with me today who are going to have some big opinions on this. Adam McKola's here, Sweeney's here, and Squawka Dave is here too. Adam, we'll start with you. Adam McKola, that is. Who is your goalkeeper in your all-time United 11? It's only really between two, isn't it?
What, Taibbi and Barthez?
Well, I say two, to be fair. Alex Stepney could make your all-time United 11 very easily.
Before I go anywhere, can I say every player that I've picked are players that I've seen with my own eyes. So I haven't picked any player that I've never seen. No George Best, no Bobby Charlton, no Dennis
Exactly
Jones.
the same.
So I haven't picked any of those. That's not because I don't think they're great. That's because I feel it's unfair to put them in my greatest 11.
I think you bang on.
So is everyone doing that?
Absolutely.
Is that the new rule, yeah?
I think that we can make an exception for a few players. I think that Best can make anyone's team, to be honest.
Yeah, that's very true. So no rules for the guys at home, but I'm putting a rule on myself. My goalkeeper, though, whilst Van der Sar was amazing, and I think if we signed him earlier, he would have been a lot closer to this, has to be the big, great Dane, Peter Schmeichel. We bought him for like £1 million, one of the best bargains ever. One of the best goalkeepers the world's seen. And I think you look at the likes of Buffon, who's been in the game forever, and I think Schmeichel is ahead of that for me. I think he was incredible.
You know what? Is everyone going for Schmeichel, or is anyone saying Van der Sar?
I'm going to go with Van der Sar. I think he's a better keeper all-round in terms of his all-round game. Schmeichel was a great leader, great commander of his box, brilliant in 1v1 situations. But I think Van der Sar had the full package. His positioning was absolutely brilliant. I think the thing where you look at Van der Sar, how many brilliant saves did he make where he was really lunging, really diving for the ball? Probably not that many. You know, there's a handful of saves there. That's because positionally, he was the best goalkeeper in recent years in terms of where he was in the penalty area, on his line, to the left, to the right. He had it down to a T. I think he was underrated with the ball at his feet. David De Gea has taken that to the next level, but Van der Sar was very, very good at playing the ball out the back. His kicking was excellent. It was just an all-round keeper. And I think that in terms of Schmeichel, yes, he had certain things that he was better than Van der Sar. But if you're looking at over the last 10 seasons in the Premier League, Edwin van der Sar has the best save ratio than any other goalkeeper at 76%. So still, he is there in history. And I think that he's just going to, for me, he's down there in a better side defensively than the 99 side, the 2008 side. So for me, Van der Sar every day of the week.
Maybe slightly controversial in the context of this chat, but I completely agree with you there, Dave. I would have Van der Sar as my all-time best United goalkeeper. Sweeney, let's start with you when we're talking about the defence. We don't really need to go into the goalkeepers too much. But who gets into your back four then in an all-time United 11?
So it is a back four, and given that we're choosing players that we've seen live in some form, I don't know. There's only one. Well, there's two maybe that you could contest, but Gene at right back. I just think the link-up play that he had with Beckham, the passion that he showed for the club as well, which I think is big. Is a huge asset. So I think he gets in at right back for me, and then the one that was a definite. There was no question about it. Is Rio at centre back? As a ball playing centre back, is unbelievable. He was unbelievable, and when people compare other players to you, particularly young players, that's when you know that you've been a star. And John Stones is obviously a big talking point at the minute for City, and as an English centre back, and everyone compares him to a young Rio Ferdinand. That's what they talk about, and I think that tells you everything you need to know. And the partnership he had with Vidic as well, I think, and this is why my next pick is what it is the partnership he had with Vidic was unbelievable. But I think Vidic couldn't have done what he did if it wasn't for Rio. So I've actually not put Vidic on my side, and I've put Jaap Stam next to him. Because I think as we didn't keep him long enough. There's no two ways about that. And Fergie let him go, and it was a mistake. I think we'd all probably agree that was a mistake. But I just think he was a more complete player. And I love Vidic. Saw a lot more of him. He was an unbelievably brutish centre-back. He won everything, put his head, his feet, his limbs everywhere. But I just think as a complete player, Stam was that little bit better. And had it not been for Rio, Vidic wouldn't have been quite the same player that he was. And then at left back is Patrice Evra, for similar reasons to Gene, really. The passion that he shows for the side, for the club, and the link-up play that he had with that fluid kind of front three, front four we had at the time, I think was something that we won't really forget as a unit. So Patrice Evra gets ahead of who would have been probably the second in line for me would have been Dennis Irwin, but Patrice Evra gets it.
Of course. Adam McKola, who makes your back four?
Very similar to Adam Sweeney's. So I've gone with Gary Neville. That doesn't need to be discussed, I don't think. Everything we know about Gary Neville is there for all to see. So Gary Neville at right back. My two centre-halves, he kind of stole my limelight with that one. It's exactly the same. Rio Ferdinand and Jaap Stam. Whilst I think Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic as a combination were probably the best pairing we've had. Is that a bit unfair to Bruce Pallister? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
But I think Rio and Vidic were
that's
phenomenal. Were phenomenal together. But I think as individuals, Rio Ferdinand is the best defender I've ever seen, to be honest. I don't know if I'm a little bit biased towards Rio because he's one of my favourite players, but for me, he's one of the best I've ever seen. And Jaap Stam, I don't know if it's because he was just here a short while and then gone again, but the man was a beast. No one was getting around him. And I've seen him come up against some... You've got to remember the teams that we came up against on the way to winning that treble. The Juventus sides, the Inter Milan sides, the Barcelona sides, and Jaap Stam dealt with a lot of them. So Jaap Stam for me goes in there. And then Dennis Irwin at left back. I think he gets it ahead of Patrice Evra for me. Whilst I love Patrice Evra, I think Dennis Irwin, if he was a bit more flash, if he was a bit more of a character, I think people would rate him a lot higher. He scored goals, he scored free kicks, he scored penalties, and he was an ever reliable left back. And I don't think defensively or in attack, Patrice Evra was better than Dennis Irwin.
For me, Patrice Evra, Dennis Irwin, exactly the same in terms of quality. The only reason why Dennis Irwin edges it for me is purely because of set pieces. Squawka Dave, who's your back four? Or is it even a back four? When you're speaking to Squawka Dave about formations, it could be anything.
He's
you don't know what's coming up.
3-5-2 with a lead. Ashley Young at wing back.
I'd love to play a 3-6-1, but unfortunately United haven't played that over the last 20 years plus. So I'm going to go with a back four. I think Gary Neville's in there, as what the lads mentioned before. Creating the Gary Neville in quotation marks, the overlapping of a winger, really used in the modern game a lot more. Gary Neville was one of the sort of like founding fathers of that manoeuvre. So yeah, Gary Neville's definitely in there, gives you a great outlet going forward. I'm going to go with Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand. I completely agree with Rio Ferdinand. Defensively was an area where people forget how good he was. For me, he was a better defender than he was a ball player because he was so good at reading situations, so quick, so good at stepping in front, stepping behind at the right time. Just all-round decision-making was phenomenal. But I think Nemanja Vidic needs to be in there. He was the Premier League Player of the Season in 2008 and in 2010. We're forgetting that. He was the best player in the whole Premier League, voted by the Premier League. In terms of his aggression, his physicality, his ability on the ball, again, was underrated. Very, very good ball player. But he just gave it. My favourite thing that Nemanja Vidic used to do is, on his own byline, pressurise with his, going out towards the corner flag, a little push, and he'd just go down. Perfect defending. The art of defending was Nemanja Vidic. Knew when to dive in, when to stand up, when to be aggressive. What a defender he was. And I think Evra's got to get it at left back for me. Dennis Irwin was a very good player, very good delivery, very good from set pieces. But Evra had it all in terms of a modern day left back. Could get forward, had tricks in his locker, could do step overs. Complemented Ronaldo. Ronaldo had come inside, Evra had gone on the outside. It was the perfect left back for the modern day in football. Defensively was very good. At Manchester United in the Premier League, won 73% of his tackles. That's 3 in every 4. Incredible rates for a fullback. So for me, Evra definitely gets it over Dennis Irwin.
Squawka Dave, tell us what your midfield is then, and while we're here as well, tell us what formation you're going to be playing.
So I'm going to play a 4-3-3.
Okay.
I think that my midfield, it's going to be an interesting midfield, but it's got great balance, and I think that's a big thing for your midfield. An all-time 11, it needs to be competitive.
Can't wait.
My all-time 11 will beat McKolla's all-time 11, will beat Sweeney's 11 because of its balance. And I'm going to start there with Michael Carrick at defensive midfield. I think Michael Carrick
Whoa!
has been
That's an interesting one.
Fantastic for the last 8 years he's been at Manchester United. Very good at controlling the tempo. Very good at sweeping up and cleaning up. You look at the 3 Champions League finals United have got to. Michael Carrick was a key component in each of those midfields. So, the first one with Paul Scholes, then later on with Ryan Giggs, and we forget that he's there because he does the hard stuff. He does the things that we don't sort of see in the game. Rio Ferdinand talks about Michael Carrick in massive value in terms of what he used to do. He was so aware. He'd tell his defenders behind him what he was doing. He was great. It was a great protection, and that's going to give my back four a lot of protection there with the fullbacks going forward. And then in midfield, I'm going to go with Paul Scholes.
Having picked Evra and Vidic, though, isn't it?
A bit of protection, exactly. But yeah, it's going to be Paul Scholes who's going to go on the left as the left central midfielder ahead of Michael Carrick. You know, what more can we say about him? The ultimate evolution of a central midfielder, starting off as an attacking midfielder, scoring goals, getting assists, and then eventually moving back and becoming a playmaker in midfield. But in the final third, similar to what Xavi did at Barcelona, scoring 107 goals and getting 45 assists in the Premier League is incredible for a central midfielder. Next to him, here is where the balance comes, and it's Darren Fletcher. You're going to put Darren Fletcher in there because he was so pivotal for that Manchester United team in the sort of 2007 to 2011 in terms of what he did for that side. Ronaldo would attack and Darren Fletcher would do his defending. He was the water carrier. And I think in this midfield that I've got here, I've got a ball player, I've got a creator, and I need someone that's going to carry the water, and that is Darren Fletcher. And I think if his illness wasn't there, he would be still at Manchester United and he would still be in that midfield.
Dave, I love you, man. I love you more than anything. But how can Roy Keane not get in that team?
Mate,
it's the modern-day midfield, Gary.
I love Darren Fletcher, but when I woke up this morning and I knew I was doing a Greatest 11 chat, I did not expect to hear the name Darren Fletcher.
Well, you've heard it. You've heard it here right now.
Hipster Dave! Have you
McKola, tell us.
You know, I've worked on the account for a while, and it's finally going to get a little bit of traction now. But also, I'd love to throw Park Ji-sung in there, but I can't find the place. I'd love to have Park Ji-sung in my side because of the work he did. You know, you go back to that Champions League that we won. He was so crucial in the knockout stage in terms of his work rate, his pressure. And unfortunately, he's not in there for me. Upsetting.
Dave, I love all these players that you're talking about, and they were so important to United's team, but they can't go in an all-time 11. McKola, who's in your midfield? What formation you playing?
I've gone 4-4-2 because that's what I was brought up on, and that's what I'm sticking to. I know it probably wouldn't work now, but the players that I pick, they would make it work. My midfield 2, you don't need a midfield 3 because you got those 2 in there. So, for me, 4-4-2 all the way. Forget what Hipster Dave's doing over there. I think he probably wanted to pick Raphael and Gibson in the centre of midfield as well.
Actually, Darren Gibson was going to play number 10 for me, McKola.
Let's have a shot when you get it. My midfield is... now, first of all, I'd like to make a heartfelt apology to my favourite player of all time, David Beckham, that he's not in this team. He's my favourite player, and unfortunately, he can't get in the team because the greatest player I've seen in a United shirt plays in that position, and that's Cristiano Ronaldo. So, Cristiano Ronaldo on the right wing, and then I'd have the midfield that won the treble: Keane, Scholes, Ryan Giggs. I don't think it gets any better than that 4. But Keane and Scholes complement each other so perfectly well in that midfield. You don't need a third midfielder to do the defensive work because they were box to box. Keane was there, you know, leading the team from the middle. Paul Scholes was there dictating the game. Perfect combination. And Ryan Giggs, what can you say about Ryan Giggs? He's the man. Which Ryan Giggs do you want? Do you want the left winger Ryan Giggs? Do you want the central midfielder that's going to sit there? You can have what you want, but this one is the flying winger.
Yes. That was when Ryan Giggs was at his best, though, mate.
Of course.
I miss those days.
Forget just how good he was when he was a winger. A lot of people talk about like the likes of Gareth Bale now and what they do. And while they're becoming a lot better in terms of numbers, I think what Ryan Giggs was doing back in the day, he was ripping defences apart.
Revolutionary, mate.
Adam Sweeney, what formation are you playing? Who makes your midfield? Do the Jemba twins get in for you?
No, they don't. Neither does Obertan. Neither does Bebe. As much as Dave would love to slot them in there somewhere.
Posse Bon.
No, do you know what? I've actually gone for exactly the same 4 to be boring as Matt. I was nearly putting Brian Robson in instead of Roy Keane.
Yeah.
But he's just on the edge of, you know, I didn't see anywhere near enough of him. I'm too young really to have seen enough of Brian Robson. And it was close. So Keane gets the nod. And I think, you know, Dave talks about balance, but I think there's a lot of balance in that midfield 4 as well. You know, Keane and Scholes, as Max already said, I think are a perfect pairing. And the real testament to Scholes is we look at Wayne Rooney now and how much he's struggling to find a position and nail down the positions that he's put in. I think Paul Scholes nailed every position that he played in as and when he was played in it for United, that is. As an attacking midfielder, he did some unbelievable things, scored an unbelievable number of goals for a midfielder as well. And then in that deep role, he played, the likes of Xavi, who we laud now in the great Barcelona sides. I would say that Paul Scholes could slot into those types of sides and do a great job and not look out of place. And I think that there are very few players that could do that. So it's exactly the same four. I know it's a little bit boring, but I think that's testament to just how good that four is.
And it's
Sweeney,
because you're right.
Yeah, well, we'll let the commenters decide that. In fact, no, I'm going to decide that at the end of this video. Sweeney, you mentioned Wayne Rooney there. Now, we're going to go on to the attackers. Now, if you imagine Wayne Rooney in his peak, just how good he was at Man United, does he make it up front in your team, in your all-time 11?
He does. Yeah, he does. Him and Eric Cantona for me, for different reasons. I think Wayne Rooney was... And he's a great player now, but he was an unbelievable player. His powers are waning, but I think it's hard to remember because it's so long ago. But he was an unbelievable footballer when he started out at United. Them three goals that he scored in his Champions League debut, just the types of goals that he scored were outrageous. And for a 17, 18, 19-year-old lad, he did some unbelievable things. We're talking about Marcus Rashford now and how good he is. Just remember that Wayne Rooney was already killing it at that age. The power that he had, the striking ability that he had. And he was taking on defenders that were 5, 6, 7 years more experienced than him and brutish Premier League defenders. And he was taking them all on. So he gets in there and his goal ratio is unbelievable. Ruud van Nistelrooy was a potential for me. But you look at the goal ratio and given the number of games that Rooney's played, his goal ratio is still arguably similar to Ruud van Nistelrooy. And I think that tells you what. Well, it is. So that tells you all that you need to know. So Wayne Rooney gets in there, and Eric Cantona was an artist. We talk about functionality, and Ruud van Nistelrooy was that. He would finish off, all the little scrapes that you get in the box. Cantona was just an artist. He was a footballer that you can't replicate. There will never be another Eric Cantona. And when you think about the class of '92 and that great core of players. There were still some experienced players in that side that carried them, or not necessarily carried them, but gave them a foundation. And Eric Cantona came in at just that time, and he was a bit of a leading man, a shining light for the class of '92. And then you look at what they went on to achieve. So a front two of Wayne Rooney and Eric Cantona for me.
Anyone who karate kicks racists at Selhurst Park is definitely in a team
absolutely.
for me. Squawka Dave, who's going to be up top for you? I'm dreading to hear this. Is Dong Fang Zhu in there, yeah?
No, he's not, unfortunately. I think I've got, obviously, my 4-3-3. I'm going to have Ryan Giggs on the left-hand side. The winger Ryan Giggs, the guy that's going to stretch the play. That's going to get the ball into the box and really take people on. I think, going back to what Matt was saying before, in his heyday, he was absolutely brilliant. He's the record all-time Premier League assister with 131 assists. So he's definitely in there.
Didn't know that.
Getting Ronaldo on the right-hand side. I've already mentioned how Darren Fletcher is going to do his defensive work for him, filtering out to that right-hand side. But Ronaldo, he's going to score me the goals. And, you go back to that season, 2007-2008, scored 42 goals in 49 games in all competitions. He was unplayable that year. So good. So good at getting into the penalty area, so good at hitting shots from outside the area. He was just a perfect footballer for me. And then in the middle, obviously, it's going to be David Bellion, Manchester United and France legend. No, that's actually rubbish. It's going to be Eric
For a minute there, literally, just for a split second.
So I'm going to apply new tactics to Eric Cantona, and he's going to be my false nine. I feel like Eric Cantona could play that role. Usually he'd be playing behind a striker, but I think that he could play up front on his own, and he could let the likes of Ryan Giggs and Cristiano Ronaldo get into those attacking areas when he vacates the space. But what a maverick he was. Turn a game in an instant. A real leader, a real character. He's going to be the captain of my side as well. So I think it's going to be Eric Cantona leading from the front.
In this hypothetical universe where Squawka Dave is United manager and all of these potential players are available, I'm just loving the image of not only you telling Eric Cantona he's got to play a false nine, but also that Fletcher and Carrick have benched Scholes and Keane, benched Keane and the mountain of other midfielders that we could have had in the team. Adam, who makes it up top for you, McKola?
It's this. I know the answer already. It's Eric Cantona and Ruud van Nistelrooy. Because Number 10 is where I think Cantona dropped a lot to. So you can't play Wayne Rooney. And then Ruud van Nistelrooy is goals. He scored 150 goals in 215 games for Manchester United. That's like 3 and 4. The man was ridiculous. He's the best goal scorer I've seen at Old Trafford. And it was a shame he came at a period where he only won 1 league title and stuff because he deserved so much. I wanted to see him win a European Cup and stuff because that's how good he was. But for Van Nistelrooy, he has to be in there. And Eric Cantona, for me, when I was growing up, Cantona was the guy that, like, I used to look at him like probably I had kids look at Superman or Batman or something like that. Now I used to just be like, this guy is like a superhero. He can do it all, and he just led and he just glided across the field, man. The first time I ever seen him, I probably cried or spazzed out or something because man, he is the king, and we're not. Trust me, that guy. That's why I couldn't put Wayne Rooney in my team. Wayne Rooney is very close to my team. But I couldn't put him in just because of Eric Cantona and Ruud van Nistelrooy's greatness.
And you know, like, people have a go at us nowadays for being too harsh on Wayne Rooney, and it's not being harsh, it's because we know how good he was. He was one of the best players in the world. One of the best players I personally have ever seen play at Old Trafford. Right, I'm going to decide which team's best now, so I want you guys to read out your full teams to me again, just to refresh my memory. Let's start with Sweeney. What's your full all-time Manchester United 11?
So I've got Schmeichel between the sticks, Nev at right back, Rio, Jaap Stam and Patrice Evra. And then a midfield 4 of Cristiano, Roy Keane, Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs. And then a 2-man axis of Cantona and Wayne Rooney.
Squawka Dave.
Well, as I mentioned before, Gaz, my team has the balance and it has what it takes to win the Champions League. We've got Edwin van der Sar in goal, Gary Neville at right back, Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidic at centre back. 2 players that have played together, so they know each other. Obviously, you've got to think of the chemistry there, Gaz. At left back, we've got Patrice Evra. Then into midfield, we've got a midfield of fight, determination and goals. Paul Scholes, Carrick and Darren Fletcher. And then a front three of a lot of joy there. We've got Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo on the right-hand side, Ryan Giggs on the left, and Eric Cantona through the middle as a false 9.
McKola, what's your all-time 11?
Can I just say, you played a false 9, that means you didn't play a striker, right?
Yeah, so I'm playing a 4-6.
No strikers for a Man United manager, Dave.
I've got my striker on the wing, mate.
Sacked in the morning.
He's playing on the right, mate. He's going to score all the goals. CR7.
All right, Dave,
I don't need a striker.
Dave, sit down. Shut up. Let me take over here, man. I got this. Right, 4-4-2. Peter Schmeichel, the Great Dane in goal. Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Jaap Stam, Dennis Irwin. So it's basically Adam Sweeney was nearly there. He was nearly there. He just got every wrong. So
all I'm missing there, mate. All you need is to be a little bit more patronising, if you could. That'd be wonderful.
I could try, Ad. Then, in the midfield, he nearly got that right as well. Ronaldo, Scholes, Keane, and Giggs. I think, is Giggs the only one whose position doesn't come under threat?
Well, I think maybe you could put George Best
and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Beckham had Ronaldo's place under threat for me, but still. Giggs there, so that's the midfield 4. Giggs, Scholes, Keane, Ronaldo. Up front, Cantona and Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Mac, you've got a bit of a problem there, because we all know that Cristiano Ronaldo and Ruud van Nistelrooy didn't get on. So your team cohesion, mate, that's going to fall apart. They're going to flip at each other. They're going to shout at each other. And unfortunately, Darren Fletcher's going to go on to score the winner in the game.
They're all very good points. Sweeney, just remind me who you had up top again.
Wayne Rooney and Eric Cantona.
Right, I'm giving it Sweeney. I think Rooney has to be in the team, mate. I think peak Wayne Rooney is one of the best players I've ever seen at Old Trafford. So definitely, I think Adam Sweeney is the winner today. I agree with that all-time Manchester United 11. Guys, make sure you're getting in the comments below and tell us your all-time United 11. I'm sure it'll cause a lot of debate.
Rubbish!
Last season.
He's an FC fan.
He's an FC fan, he says. Hey, Altrincham are my local club. I'm just a glory hunter. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us today on Full Time Devils. We'll see you next time for another huge debate. Laters.